Grand day. It's been a long time. And we want to give this a check-in and see how lives are working. And we're going to start talking to realms, planes of existences, aspects of self, worlds created by words. So let's actually call this one that. There is a book that we're writing on this topic. So let me go ahead and pull up that book. Again, for those of you who join this now or in a parallel now, this is going to go over realms. I'm trying to see where the camera is right here. Okay. Realms, planes of existences, words, worlds. Worlds are created by words. Okay. Aspects of self. And there was one more that I feel like this is also going to cover. Let me just pull up. Again, we're pulling up the so far written book around this topic. And if you're joining us, I can't actually see the comments just yet. Let me see if I can pull that up. I'm going to see if that's able to be seen. I don't see the comments, but maybe I could pull it up on my phone after I get this book up. So if you're with me, push up over your head, blowing out your mouth for Shakti Put. It's called bringing a large clearing through the mouth, exhaling through the mouth, inhaling through the nose, and exhale, pushing up with your hand above you, below you, to the left of you, to the right of you, behind you, and in front of you. And then just close your eyes and imagine you're doing that in all 6 directions. On the exhale, blow out. And of course, it's not coming up. And that's kind of some of the things I want to talk about within this conversation. It is approaching 12:12, which represents now time. And meaning this is now time to talk about. So for the longest sharings through the years, so-called years, we've talked mainly about the central channel and the aspects of self. Meaning the aspects that you've known yourself by or others have known you by, the aspects or the identification, soul essence bubbles that you've known yourself as. So you may have known yourself as a name, you may have known yourself as a soul, as a human, a being, even a person, a body, a child, a teenager, all these different aspects of self, an archetype, a higher self, an oversoul, a monad, a god, a goddess. Let's see if we can check in at least to make sure how this is sounding before I go on any further. Give me one moment. Thankfully, at least I'm pretty sure this gets recorded, even if it doesn't come in as clear as I would have hoped live because of this topic. And of course, it's just spinning around. So everything that's causing this to not fully come in, we're just going to ask for assistance. We're going to ask for oversoul assistance. We're going to ask for higher self assistance. We're going to ask for all the monad, all the supporting groups that work with me, the Arcturians, and It looks like we are live.
Oversoul Assistant.
Oh, good. We are live.
For all the monad, all just with me, the Arcturians.
Good, and I can hear clearly. We've got an invisible person coming to the doorbell, the phone rang. So that's really what I want to talk about is I have been guided for the past year or so-called year, to go within and do a lot of deep writing. I've been writing the quantum books, writing the gratitude journals, the children's books, the children's journals, and to really go in and also find anything that needed to be deep dug around who we are, what we are, and what's been happening on planet 9, on this planet, this so-called plane of lower planes of existence, why the certain events that we've seen have occurred, and what was the cycle of that. And so what I had started talking about is that the beginning, what we would call first 20 years for what I've been working with groups about has been their own personal psyche, their own soul psyche of this incarnation and others, and not so much about the things that I had to look at this past year and really go ahead and pull up the anchors, pull up the agreements, the contracts and arrangements that would keep a soul from knowing that it's a soul, but keep a soul from knowing that it's alive, from knowing that the games that were being played to keep it in reincarnation. And so that's what we looked at this past year, and we haven't been able to really talk about it too straightforward, unless it's been, soul to soul, because there was things tripping things up. And frequency wise, it was dropping us into frequencies that sometimes could be seen and sometimes weren't. So now what we're looking at is recently being seen by those who are meant to be seen. And we've got an ant on here, which represents the community, calling out saying, "Hello, ET phone home, get on and talk." So here I am. So where we've been able to show up for a certain handful of beings has been really minimal. And I apologize about that. There's really nothing I could do about it, but just show up where I show up, and speak when I'm meant to speak and be mute when I'm meant to be mute. But I'm glad to be on here right now and to really dive into this topic. And it's a big one around the realms, beyond the aspects of self, the realms, which are similar to what I'm talking about in many different ways, in the sense that realms are like frequencies. So let's just look at the common realms that I've been dealing with, or the first 7 realms, I should say, not so much common, but the first 7 realms are first 3 dealing with the gross matter, which we talked a lot about before I hopped offline last year, and how the gross matter, when we're seeing form, when we're seeing material plane, it shows up in form, and you can see that. Or, at a lower frequency, you're able to view, experience, touch, pick up gross matter. And then when the gross matter shifts to antimatter and dark matter, sometimes that's in the, unseen realms, which we're also going to go now from 1, 2, and 3 being gross matter. We're going to talk about 4, realm 4, that again, these realms can also have a strong connection to your energetic centers, which has also been beautiful through the years to have it kind of simply line up with the energetic centers. So that's just a side note. But again, the 4th center being also having a connection to the 4th realm, which is the emotional realm, the etherical realm, what we would call the antimatter connection to that 4th realm, where we start to feel more than, touch the object or the form of the object. All of a sudden, beyond the form, you're with people, and now you're feeling them. You're feeling the energies in the room. You're feeling the emotions. And that's a graduating experience I've noticed from my own journey, is that after you've really dealt with all these lower three gross matter realms, and know that you're a soul, know that you're alive, woman, man, you know that you're eternal beyond the woman and man, you know that you're utilizing the avatar body, you start to realize this energetic body, these energetic subtle bodies around you that pick up the antimatter and dark matter. They pick up the sensations of the feelings of the heart cascading of vibrational emotion from that fourth energy center. Okay? As you're evolving and you've dealt with your personal psychoses, you've dealt with your energy kinks of the lower three gross matter realm, you then start to graduate into the heart, into feeling, into this fourth realm. Okay, and in that fourth realm, we start to experience more of our, all of our clairs, I've noticed. Clairsentience, clairaudience. So sentience is feeling, clairaudience is hearing, claircognizance is knowing, clairvoyance is visual. There might be one more I'm not saying, but you get what I'm saying. So those begin to really be felt into and mastered at a level. And I notice that they also graduate one into the other until all of a sudden you're fully blown open and you can, have all your senses come on, those six senses. And when yoga, we practice going within the withdrawal of senses, the pratyahara, we pull in from all those carnal senses, first five senses of the outer, taste, touch, hearing, sight, feeling, and we pull in so that we can start to activate these inner upper glands, these inner upper abilities to have those clairaudience, clairsentience, etc. Okay? And then they start to go away. I notice that as you ascend, the involution that begins to happen as you ascend up your ladder, you descend, you arrive here, you ascend, arising back up and out, and then you've got to come back in and ascend into the heart and start to feel again. So as you're going through this feeling, there's going to be, like I said, sometimes these skills, these clair skills begin to go away. So it's like they're wide open and then they go away and you're left going, okay, even who am I beyond that? What else? And then there becomes this grand unyoking, unveiling into these even higher realms of omnipresence, being unknowable, ineffable, being not just, the soul, but now it unyokes and unveils, unzips itself to now you're the plane of existence. Now you're the full space everywhere. Now you're trying to understand what you're feeling beyond just your own soul's feelings. You begin to, come into source, into God consciousness. And we're, mindful when we say source, whatever that beginning point, Father, Mother of Light revealed itself as source in Reiki level 2 or Reiki book 2, quantum 2, the Reikis of light. Anyways, coming back. So as you come into this bigger space, okay, you unzip out of the soul packet into this bigger space, God consciousness. The higher realms also 5, 6, and 7 begin to activate. And they are mental plane, mental body, mental realms. Excuse me. And these 5, 6, and 7 mental realms, meaning when I'm tuning in, I'll say, what realm am I tapping into with clear thought? I'll notice that if I think a thought or someone says something in front of me or I watch a video, then immediately it biofeedbacks and I'm, seeing that actualize. And that would happen a lot at the center, Solterra, and even the dome, where I just was very hypersensitive, even this past year, of the deep dive into understanding what's been going on here on Planet Nine for the past few years, into those deep dive of those agreements around the all caps name, etc. I would get very hypersensitive to what was said around me, and what I would be thinking, because I immediately would see it actualize. And I wanted to just be as kind as I can with my thoughts and my words, and, watch, witness, read things that are going to expand infinitely in the Most High. Now, what I also started to see, though, as I, put on my big girl pants and, dealt with the dark shadow for the collective, not getting so hypersensitive about what I was seeing and reading, is that the only way out is through, right? The only way out through the dark tunnel is to go through it. And because of how, when you unzip yourself out of the soul and you're coming back into the omnipresence plane of existence, as plane of existences we'll go into in a minute, where it may have been like a visceral sensation, minute, it becomes massive when you are unlocked into the omnipresent large space and you feel that dark shadow. So it's not a dark night of the soul, it's a dark night of God consciousness, dark night of, the collapse in on itself, the snake getting its tail, the, satanama, the ta, the death. And so that great death experience leads to new life. Satana ma. Ma is the rebirth into new life. And the ultimate rebirth is to not be rebirthed anymore. Okay, the full merger back into God consciousness. So the only way to do that is to go through all this. And so those 5, 6, and 7 mental body realms, or mental realms of expansion or involution back into God consciousness. If you're there, comment. If you're not there yet and you feel like you somewhat touched that here and there, and you have a question, I'll try to answer it. So the other topic on this is planes of existences. So with planes of existences, you can be at any realm in your development, meaning I noticed that the realms, as you've awoken yourself to your soul, to God consciousness, you know that you're everything, even though you may not be the full merger, you know that you at times get that overall sensation that all is one, that you really are looking at you, looking at yourself, back at yourself. You really can see the greater, biofeedback around you, the holographic projection going on, and you know that this is being projected by you, for you, through you. You can be at any realm of your development, and sometimes you hop around in a day, or in a light, or in a, yeah, definitely in a life, in a week, in a year. It's not like that's a rising into first realm, second realm, third realm, fourth realm, and then that's it. You just keep going higher. What I've experienced is that, there's always room for fluctuation, because as you come out of the cave and go back into different groups and experiences, even within a house, I notice one room to the next changes everything. Changes how things are showing up, what plane I'm on, what realm I'm experiencing. And maybe that's just for me. Again, if you have these similarities, I'd love to hear about it. Okay, so coming into the planes of existences, I've noticed the planes of existences seem to have a connection to the realms, meaning in the lower gross matter realms, it does seem that you experience the lower planes of existences. So it's like, if I was, the way I dream the planes of existences are, well, let's just start with when I think it was, I don't know, where are we now? 2023. we were at Solterra. Uh, I want to say, I don't know, maybe it was like 2017. And there was a strong request from God consciousness to start to reoccupy the plane. It kept saying, reoccupy the plane. You know, you all, as you are holding these councils of 12 meetings, please, as the monad, as the one you are, please reoccupy the plane, I would hear God consciousness say. And so we would spread out into space in our meditations and see the white plane of light and know that, you know, this blanket of white light that we are as omnipresent nature, that's what we were expanding out to. So that, you know, was like what I had thought would just be this one plane and that would be it. Well, jumping back to the most recent downloads and experiences is that when I dream, I'll dream a mountain and I'm going up the mountain and the layers, let's use 7 planes. Each, if this is a mountain, 1 plane, 2 plane, 3 plane, 4 plane, 5 plane, 6 plane, 7 plane, all the way to the pinnacle top of the mountain would be the highest plane. And at the lower plane, most of the people on the planet are experiencing this first plane of existence. It's like they're playing at this, let's just say a lower frequency, because it also seems to be connected to the realms, the lower realms, where those who are experiencing that first plane of existence really are experiencing most of gross matter as real, as all that there is. That's what they're focused on. That's what they identify with. And maybe a little bit of 2 and 3 planes. But as we rise higher in the planes, for instance, even where I'm filming right now, this is a 7th plane of existence, typically, most recently. Is this a 7th plane right now? No. Because you're talking to them, it's a 4th and 5th plane. Right now, see, because this isn't real. Everything around you that you're seeing with your 2 eyes is not truly the real, right? It's expressing itself frequency wise, how it can be expressed from that projector. So right now, there's 1 being on here watching this live. Let's see if you've made a comment. Who's on here? I'm going to just jump on. If you could just let me know who you are, where you are, or what you identify as. Maybe you don't have a name. Maybe your symbol. But I'm going to leave my phone on and see if I can see a comment of who's on here. Because that's just giving me an idea of the resonant match energy that's pulling up a 4th to 5th plane experience. Okay? And now there's 2 of you on here. Tell me who you are, where you are in this topic of conversation, how you're relating to what I'm talking about, so I can just play with this as an experiment. We're researching this experience here together. Okay, so when we're dealing with the planes, I was saying that typically this room has been showing up as a 7th plane of existence. When I go to Honeymoon Island some days in the rising, it's a 7th plane of existence. So I'll dream of the mountain and the plains, and then I'll get up in the day and drive around, and they'll show me like the most close 5 towns or 7 towns around me, and how each of those towns is a plane. So what's that mean? Okay. It means when I'm out on the island in the 7th plane, it's like heaven. Okay. When I go to a coffee shop in the 6th plane, I'm able to work with those that come to that coffee shop. It's actually in Tarpon Springs. And it's a strong portal. I noticed the most unique people coming in there and of very interesting angelic kind of beings coming in there. Souls that are embodied here, working on whatever it is they need to work on as far as their ascension is going on things that they're needing to do mission work, good deeds, to get their wings back for the full ascension. And then when I go to plane 5, which has been pretty much around this space that I'm at, what we would call Crystal Beach. And in plane 5, I see same kind of thing, some fairies, some angels also earning their wings back. You know, which is pretty much what I've noticed is like knowledge is bringing people to the frequency that they need, putting on your big girl pants, your big boy pants, and dealing with, what is going on, why things are going on a certain way, why you're experiencing your biofeedback in a certain way, what's going on in your life, what's going on in the grand mass mind that you're witnessing. And that's a choice. You can go into the cave, even if you're not on a mountain. You can go into the cave and start to turn off social media, turn off movies, turn off certain things so that you really can clean out what's biofeedbacking to you and have it really come back to you in your waking days and nights. What's meant to, not just you're feeding it a bunch of, programs and not getting to really get underneath that soot, even though that soot of the programs that you are gravitating to has a lot of content in there for you to do your mission work, your knowledge retrieval, to find out like, well, why am I watching this? What is it trying to open within my Akashic records so that I can do some repair, so I can restore it, so that I can awaken from the deep sleep of the dead consciousness, and arrive alive and arrive eternal, right? So alive is man and woman, eternal is the soul consciousness, dead consciousness is underwater, corporations, maritime law, all those things that the main first plane of existence is operating on. And if that makes no sense to you, then look those things up. And if it makes some sense to you, then, you're having an understanding with me at this experience together right now that's gathering more knowledge about why I wanted to get on here with you all, which is going beyond that into the living, into the eternal, and then into the grand merger. So coming back to the planes, so if, we go to plane 4, what I've noticed is plane 4 has a lot to do with, souls waking up, the living waking up, and they're waking up in their dreams. They're waking up that the daytime is a waking dream. And, maybe from plane 4, 5, 6, and 7, you start noticing what I've been noticing is that as you pull yourself out of the water, as you pull yourself out of the identification of just being a name, and that you're not a name. How could you ever be a name, silly? Come on. If you're eternal, how can that name be all that you are? How can that body be what you are? You're everything and you're nothing. So as you start pulling yourself out of that, and I'm speaking to myself when I say silly, because all that's really here is me staring at me, talking to me, waking myself up. Okay? So if you are everything and nothing, and you're awaking yourself out of these deep sleep patterns that keep you recycling, keep you reincarnating, then you're going to start to notice some of the similarities that I was just about to say, which is maybe you don't get phone calls like you used to. Maybe you're not getting emails. Maybe you're not getting mail. Maybe you're, not getting things that you were getting just when you were identified with the name and just when you were identified with numbers. Now, what I've also worked with this past, parallel nows is utilizing it all. So pulling myself out of it all as the soul and as the merger of the one, but then learning how to use it while we are here, learning how to use all aspects of it. So not being in a resistance, although it's definitely put me in pickles where I felt very resistant, where I felt like, oh my gosh, I never want to deal with that again. I can't believe I was so asleep for so long with that. Even though most of this incarnation, let's get recentered. I was saying that even though there's been a diving back into this content after 20 something years, it was necessary. I don't really know the exact train of thought I was on for that, but it'll come back up if it needs to. So let's keep going. So the planes of existences, as you awaken up, you might notice that you're not being seen in places. Then you can reoccupy it again. All the things you learned about. How can you rebrand it? How can you make the best use of it? Why are you still here with it if it's still in your reality? Why are you still here with it if it's still in your reality? Are you to change it? Are you to arrive at new? Are you to change it? Are you to arrive at new, like I said, branding of it and reoccupy it in a way and use it in a new way? Are you to fully leave it behind and start something new? Again, there's no time, so it's all about you rising in the frequencies and into the assignments and following instructions from God consciousness that you are moment to moment, is what I find. And that these checkpoints that you do, these knowledge bases that you grab into and digest, reoccupy, rebrand, that you dive into and just know like you're eternal and you're beyond eternal. So, if fear comes over you, deal with it, take a break, seek some guidance from within, dream about it, seek some guidance from a mentor to go ahead and make sense of it. And then when you're ready, go back into it, knowing that it's going to set you free. The truth will set you free, I promise. That's why you're here. Okay. And so I'm able to get online here. I didn't know if I was going to be able to get on. I just tried to write a book or finish up a book on scalar wave technology and how the soul is a scalar wave, the best one, the nullifying zone that exists here. And because that's what I was guided to do this rising, and then the computer wouldn't work. So, but this did. That's what this led to. One thing leads to the next. So follow instructions and set yourself free, frequency to frequency, realm to realm, plane of existence, the plane of existence. So there's probably more I could go on about the planes, but it'll be in the book. Let me just keep going and not make this too long. The next thing is worlds and words. So words create worlds, agreements, contracts, arrangements, they all create worlds. So maps create worlds. So a group of words, a word, just one word creates a world. A group of words creates a group of worlds. It creates a certain kind of world, okay? A group of arrangements, agreements, bodies of words create nations and create land. Land really is ether. There's no land. It's just an agreed upon words that create what you're experiencing and so calling gross matter and land. And that's a deep topic that probably will have at least a chapter in the book. But what I want you to get at is your worlds are changing constantly when you decide to no longer believe in something. When you pull yourself out of a contract, arrangement, and agreement, you can do, a ritual, you can do paperwork, you can just command it and state it, you can dissolve it in your mind, especially when you're working with the higher realms of 5, 6, and 7, whatever you think is. You just got to be mindful of, multidimensionally pulling yourself out of something, but then still going back into it and other aspects of yourself and versions of yourself. You got to pull all those versions back in and have a grand merger and be mindful of what you think, say, and feel from that point forward. And you got to do deep digging to find where you still may be hiding some agreements that are going against that new thought. So you really, it's all learning. And that's why you want to wake up to all these things so you can find out what's been making your reality or what's been making your illusion that you've been calling reality. So there's a true reality, and that true reality you will find in your lucid dreams. You will find in the cave. You will find without all the movies and things going on. You will find in the deep silence of, fasting and silent retreats, mute for years. You will find the true reality once you get on with all these illusions. But for most of us, myself included, all the years, I was caught in the illusions because it was at one way, it was like a retreat, to retreat from what I knew I was going to have to do a deep dive about eventually, even though I've been working with groups for so long. I knew there was always more for me individually or solely or, omnipresently that had to be dealt with. And so that's been, you know, a deep dig, another deep dig. So the words and worlds are something that you're going to have to just keep working with. What do you want your worlds to be? The most recent journals that I've been creating, we are on like 111 journals now, or in books collectively, and you can find those at Living Love Light bookstore .godaddyscites.com. But the most recent, journals, they all have blueprinting paper. They all have journal pages because it's so important that you are deciding your new maps. God consciousness, that you're tapping into omnipresent nature, you're tapping into the highest potential, and you're declaring what will be so for your remaining time in these lower planes of existences and in the new planes to come. And, we are even heading at a time, 2033. That's a whole nother topic. But as a collective, we are heading out of that time cycle. And some think that it returns right around again if you haven't hopped yourself out of those frequencies and those, lower planes, then you get recycled and reincarnate. And there's nothing wrong with that. But each time you go around the cycle, each time you try it again, Groundhog's Day, jump back in a body, wake up each day. For me, what I have noticed, it's all about what are you doing with your nows? Is it on purpose? Is it from love? Is it with an open heart? Is it from a place of forgiveness and healing and compassion and understanding? What is your mission right now? What are you doing with your time? What are you doing with your energy? What are you doing with so-called play money? What are you doing? This is something that you're going to ask yourself again and again, and tune in every rising, every setting, every dream time. What am I here for? What's up? How can you help? How can you serve? It's through the service and mission work that your heart will stay open, that you will stay illuminated in the higher realms. You will stay lifted into your higher aspects, into your the higher God consciousness, and and return to the one. And some of you, that doesn't sound exciting, and it's more about the carnal senses and about the deep dive into dissension and the sexuality, the external sexuality rather than the internal merger with God consciousness. And there's no race or run to it. There's no good or bad about it. But I'll tell you, for me, in this most recent, what we call parallel year, it's about purity, about ascension, about rising it up, stabilizing all the energy centers to experience a grand inner bliss orgasm rather than an out lower entanglement. That's another topic. And then it becomes this great love affair with all that is in front of me, knowing that, again, how can I serve? What am I here for? With the heart open, when the heart is wide open, you are in now time. And it's like, what am I here for now? And it'll show up, especially as you do a deep purge and you clean out and you detox. What's in front of you is so ready. It's always coming right in front of you because that's just the way this reality is, or this experience of the illusions that are overlaying the true reality. It's always going to be in front of you. You're projecting it. So, yeah. Okay, let me just wrap this up. We talked about the planes. We talked about words and worlds. Let's see. I still don't see any chats on here, but I see two of you. Let's see if the book will pull up. It was just spinning a minute ago. Okay, here we are. Planes, worlds, realms. And so dimensions, for years it was like focusing on the dimensions. And, I feel like we probably were describing dimensions, and really we probably would have been describing what I just went over. For the dimensions, you've got a dot, one dimension. You got two, a line, two dimensions. You got a third dot creating a line out here, and you got three dimensions. Then you go 4 to a cube, and you got the tesseract. You got fourth dimension. And then you go 5, 6, and beyond, and all those dimensions really are here right now. It's more of like the build out of matter is when we're looking dimensionally. So I really don't speak to how I was speaking to dimensions. It feels like more it's evolved into these topics of realms, planes of existences, and worlds. And you can have worlds, differ, meaning as you fold in those different agreements and belief systems, and you're clear with your words, clear with what you're agreeing to, the world changes, where you go out and all of a sudden you don't believe that's going to be there anymore, and then it's there. Or it's not there because you don't believe it anymore. And I think we do have a comment. Here we go. Okay, so what about this fake reality I project? I feel bad sometimes to meet higher beings and align my reality with them. Right. So you say, I feel bad sometimes to meet higher beings and align my reality with them. Tell me more about that. Like, give me an example, and then I'll just try to speak to what you've already wrote. So what I'm seeing, what the fake reality is that, again, reality is reality. It's just more of like, if I was to say fake reality, it's like those are the illusions that you're still projecting, and finding out, using the Akashic Soul Pro app to go ahead and do some, records on it, pull some automatic charts to say, like, what's going on right here? What is this connected to? And then whatever those 23 charts show you on the app, you can go ahead and meditate on some of the words that are popping out to you and say, okay, so let's say, it says mother, and it says like 10 to 20 years old. You could muscle test out when you were 12 years old what happened with your mother and why that's projecting out the reality you're experiencing right now. Or, you can relate it to who's ever in front of you right now. How is whatever the who is on the chart connecting to an archetype similar to the beings in front of you? So typically most of our now is being recycled from an earlier time in life where we didn't really fully integrate whatever was going on, usually pre 7 years old, or another timeline of release from that timeline, so-called death, so-called arguments, so-called disagreements, are usually recycling and repeating themselves until we fully get it and forgive it and have compassion and a greater understanding of what was going on at that time that was being identified as love or as fear. If fear and love are the only two emotions creating reality, what was going on with something earlier on, and how does that relate to now? So it's all about understanding. Once you understand it, the so-called fake reality and the illusions just disappear because you heal it and it no longer resonates. And if it does start to happen again, similar circumstances start happening again after you've healed it, you got the messages. What I notice is that you've grown. So let's say you've identifying yourself as a soul or an evolved soul, but all of a sudden you grow again in the sense that now you're the oversoul. Now you're the Godhead. Now you're recognizing that you're also the plane of existence. You're not just even a body or a soul, you're everything. Oh, then you go and start noticing you're nothing. Okay. As you grow in consciousness in that way, you then sometimes pull up some of those old things that you felt like you were done with, and they start happening in front of you. And then now it's time to help others. And sometimes helping others is saying nothing. Sometimes it's writing a book. Sometimes it's doing a piece of artwork. Sometimes it's just being the omnipresent presence of nothingness around that situation and not, judging it as good or bad, just being there and witnessing it. There's all kinds of things that might happen. Sometimes it's you stepping in and going, gosh, I really can relate to what you all are going through. How can I be of service? So, I know that's a lot of different possibilities, but I don't see that you've put in an example here. So hopefully that helps you. Thanks for being the one, Paola, Zida. The frequency of Paola, Zida. For the tonal frequency, Paola, Paolo. Thank you for seeing thee. And we'll end on that note for now. Thanks for showing up. May all beings find a new way to occupy the plane and bring the new. May all beings find love. May all beings find true freedom from any kind of false realities, any bindings, restraints, or constrictions that had them thinking they were something that could be constricted. Until next time. Satnam. Satnam. Share this if it feels appropriate.